back and bought the female puppy from Gerald a little later because Gerald likes good dogs, but he likes money a lot better than he likes good dogs. And the young male that I had was making a really outstanding dog and got run over on the highway. I wound up catching a kid. He got run over on Highway 42 between Summerall and 49. I quit hunting there just for that. I had caught a lot of cats in that country, but I just thought that wasn't worth it. But anyway, I kept a female named, she was Kate too, but she wasn't Cripple Kate. I had Cripple Kate and Kate. And the Kate bitch, I bred to Rip, and I got an outstanding set of young dogs. And I liked them too well. I mean, they were a little bit trashy. I mean, they caught 3 or 4 coats. I mean, they were just a lot of hound, and I loved them, and I loved old Rip. I caught a lot of cats with them, but they were the most powerful set of hounds I ever owned. And in that litter was a dog named, I called him Red Man. He's a red ringneck. Every one of those dogs were yellow ringneck or basically high tan, which went back to the Rusty and Cripple Kate cross. I mean, both of those dogs were real colored up dogs. And the best one of those dogs wound up dying in my pen. I never did know what happened, but I gave Finney, old Red Man. And Finney, being Finney, he's trashy and he don't try and he's this, that, and the other. But first thing you know, he had 4 or 5 chips bred to him. And out of that deal came the Red Cloud dog.
Oh, okay.
And so we tried 3 or 4 times to breed a bitch or two. And it just, when Finney was coming through to Florida, going to Florida or something, and it just didn't work out. And I was busy at the time, and with cattle, and just didn't take off. I mean, I think it made Finney mad that I wouldn't come down there, but I just didn't have time, or I didn't think I did. I'm sure in retrospect I probably did have time, but it didn't work out. But Glenn Rybard and Bud Rybard up there were wanting to get in cat hunting, and Finney was helping them, and he'd let them have some dogs, and I bought some dogs over in South Carolina. It was just kind of a trading deal, and Glenn and Bud came down there and picked them up, and I had this female out of Rip and a heel-bred dog, Larry Smith at Poplarville, who's was Joe Mack's brother and my good friend and cow trading buddy, and they fox hunt. They grew up fox hunting. They've always fed 50 or 60 or 100 fox dogs, and they competition hunt. And Larry had told me I'd go down there and cat hunt fairly often. They had some country we'd catch some cats in. And Larry told me that Mose Hill, at the time, he thought he had the dogs that when you went to a field trial, that's the dogs you had to beat. Somebody else might win, but you went there knowing you had to beat them. And but then they raised 200 to 300 puppies a year too, so that was a lot of it. Boy, how astute they were, I don't know. But anyway, I said, well, buy me. I want a good heel-bred bitch to make an outcross. I think we need to do that. And he did, and I gave $800 for the bitch, which was a lot for a fox dog, but I mean, that was fine. And I bred her, and I wound up raising 1 puppy out of her that I remember. I think maybe I let Larry have one for helping me, and he loved his, but he got run over. And that bitch made a nice cat dog and a broke cat dog, but she wanted to hang up a little bit, trailing. And instead of just keep reaching out, I just think they got to keep. I mean, a cat, now running a cat, he might turn around and come back. But when you're trailing him, he's not just going to go down the road and then turn around and come right back up there. Just don't do it. And she'd go back to where she smelled him last a lot of times, and I just didn't like that. So, but I wanted puppies out of her and Red Cloud. And she was a red ringneck dog, too. So anyway, Glenn and them never buying those dogs. And I told Glenn, I said, I'll let you have it. I said, I think that's a $1,500 bitch. And I told him what the deal was. But I said, if you want her, you can have her for $750. Breed her to Red Cloud, because he was going to be right up there anyway, you know. And Finney was good buddies with them. I knew Finney would be all for it. And I get half the puppies and you get half the puppies. And the way we're going to do that is I get one, you get one. I get one, you get one. That was all good. This was at 6 o'clock in the morning at my dog pen. They had driven down there, driven all night, I guess, to get down there. So anyway, they carried them home. They got the dog bred. They had 6 puppies and nice yellow ringneck puppies. And so I went up there, carried my dogs. We hunted that night, didn't do very much. And the next morning went there, maybe we went to Rybar's pen first that afternoon, picked out the puppies. And so I picked one, and that was the Corky dog. And then Glenn picked, I can't remember but made an outstanding dog. And then I picked Tammy. She was the biggest, stoutest female. And then Glenn picked a female that was big and stout. Well, the bottom line is we came down to there was one more bitch left, and I said, and was a runt. I guess it must have been 5 of those puppies. So anyway, and I said, well, I'll take her. I mean, that's fine. I'll take the runt. And Finney said, no, you don't get but 2. And I said, no, that wasn't a trade, Finney. I mean, it just wasn't. And, oh, no. Well, I said, well, you weren't there. And, well, Glenn didn't say anything, you know. And I think they both got mad, but it was a trade, and I'm a trader. Mm-hmm. And I wanted a puppy. And anyway, I brought the dogs home, and Finney and him, he never did get over that, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But they all made really good dogs. When Corky was 2 years old, Finney loved him. He hung with him too. And he's a big, stout, good-looking sucker, and had a good, not an outstanding mouth, but a good mouth. The 2 bitches were at least twice as good, but Finney didn't. He had gotten to the point, and he liked that was the showest dog. He's the showy dogs I ever saw. One morning, Larry Smith and I were hunting. And it was in the summertime, and it got hot, and we hadn't done anything. Maybe we trailed a cat or 2 and couldn't jump them. And I had Tammy and Candy on the box. And Candy, which was a runt, was the best rig dog that I mean, she was just amazing. You could drive down the highway at 80 miles an hour down the interstate through a cutover, and she just as liable. If she opened, it was a cat. Now, he may have been there a week before, just sprayed on a bush, but you could take an inventory of those 2 dogs rigging. And I just never have really been into rigging too much since then. I didn't have one that good, and I just feel like you can teach dogs more if you rode on them. But at any rate, Finney and I went to Florida hunting, and he had totally fell in love with Corky. Well, that morning, Larry and I, we were coming out, and we hit a sand bed, and about the time I saw a big tom track in that sand bed, picking up the view, as they say. Yeah. And Tammy and Candy opened on it about the same time. So I said, look here, well, I had 3 or 4 dogs in one side of the box, which included Corky. And I just put the 2 bitches down and turned those other dogs out too. I had an old dog, good dog too. And they started trailing, opening here, opening there, and trailed off in a big beaver pond. And all of a sudden, old Corky, he just acted like he really got good. And I thought, well, damn, Corky about to jump that thing. And here he came on the damn backtrack, right back to the truck, right where it came. And I called Finney, and I said, you love old Corky. I said, what have you got you give me? Well, Finney, he's a good trader, because, I mean, he gave me a puppy, which was out of the next litter, and she wound up making a decent dog. She'd help you kill a cat. She wouldn't strike, she wouldn't trail, which was Chiquito. But I wanted him to have Corky. He loved Corky, and Corky done made me mad one time too many. There just wasn't any point in that. But I wanted to catch that old big tomcat, and he just threw it away. I mean, so anyway, that was how Finney wound up with Corky, and you know, after somewhere down the line, he said, "Oh, he's the best dog," and this was bragging on him, and I said, "Oh, Finney, he's a counterfeit something." And Finney said, "Oh no," he said, "I got in his mind." Said he's. So maybe Finney got in his mind, I don't know, but there was one disagreement we had on dogs. We saw eye to eye for the most part, but Corky was a really show. But he's bred a lot of gyps, and I've got, I don't know, half the dogs in my pen are probably out of Corky.
Yeah.
And I ain't one of them I don't like a lot.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the cash dog is bred the Virginia bitch that you were asking about.
Yeah.
That's about as nice a hound as anybody ever wants to haul right there. And so anyway, the Corky deals worked out good for all of us. Finney loved him, and
he made a good stud dog.
He's made a good stud dog. He really reproduced better than what he was, in my opinion.
That's a good stud dog.
Yeah, but anyway, that's kind of.
Well, just for people that might hear this, a lot of them are going to be folks out on the West Coast and stuff, and up north and out east, and now I know you've tried dogs from all over, and including the West Coast. You were buying. I mean, when I met you, I was living in Oregon, and you were looking for dogs from out there. That's how I met you, and so you've tried good dog. I mean, from good hunters out there, as good as there is, and brought them out here. But it's not what you ended up with. Now, what could you go through that process?
Well, I think the dog that I got from you was a Tree and Walker bitch, and she was a nice little bitch. I liked her. The other dog that I went out there and stayed with Tom Barnes, I think, a week and hunted with him, and I loved the country. I loved the trip. He had a hell of a nice set of dogs. We trailed a cat one morning. We had a hard time finding cats like you always do, but they did a really nice job of trailing and jumping and running dog. And I bought a bitch from him named Lacey that he really liked. But the reason he sold her to me, and that's what he said, and I believe him, was that she didn't want a tree. Well, that was fine with me. I was looking for, but they were Tree and Walker dogs. And Lacey I liked Lacey a lot. She was an outstanding road dog and strike dog, and if you hunted, every other morning or something, she was great. But if you go to Florida and hunt all night, 3 or 4 nights, especially in a lot of water, about the end of the second night, you probably have to pick Lacey up and carry the truck and put her in. She was just done. These running dogs just kill her. And she was just as good as they were till then. She just wasn't tough enough. Yeah. And I'm not saying you got to have that tough a dog. I mean, that was probably as good a trailing, tracking strain of dogs. But now, several years after that, I bought a dog from Tom. He called and said he had a male dog, and I sent him back. I just sent him back out there. I said, he don't have any use down here. He wasn't anything like Lacey. So, but...
Was she a rig dog for you?
No, and I didn't really push the rigging. I mean, the rigging, Finney and them got all excited about rigging a little later, and I said, well, yeah, I know I've been where people, that's all they do. And so I put me together a set of rig dogs, and it just so happened that those 2 bitches were outstanding rig dogs. And they were yellow ring-necked dogs. They were beautiful dogs. It was showy. I was proud to have them up there on the box, especially because I knew if there's a cat in the world, they'd smell it. And so it was all good. But after that, I kind of got away from it. And I could tell you 2 or 3 stories about rigging this winter. I decided I need to go back to rigging because I wanted to hunt some during deer season, and I had some places that I could hunt, but there were blacktop roads and stuff, and I could hunt, but I didn't need to road hunt dogs. And I caught 3 or 4 cats with the dogs that I was rigging with. Old Cleet basically struck most of them. He don't know anything about it. He still, if you put him up there and he smells a cat, he's going to jump off, tied down, and everything else. But that's not what I want to do. I'll probably have me something to be a rig dog, but I'm not this big a fan of it. Where I hunt and how I hunt.
You run your dogs down the road in front of your truck.
That's right. I mostly road hunt. I feel like I can train puppies better. I keep them in better shape like that. I mean, you can look at my dogs, and most people say those dogs look terrible. Those dogs are athletes. I mean, there's Larry Smith, the field trial fox hunter. He always told me, he said, if you can't see their hip bones, they can't win a hunt. And I believe that. I mean, Finney would probably say that that's wrong, and Finney's a good dog man, but I subscribe to that theory. I mean, you don't see any big-bellied or even solid people win any of these marathons. You see them little starved-to-death guys from Kenya who win marathons. And I kind of think it's the same way with the dogs. I just think it's better for the dogs in the long run. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper when you're feeding 20 or 30 dogs, too.
Well, how did you, now being a coon hunter, because that's where I started, too. I mean, I love the tree. I love looking at cats in the tree, But at some point, that became unimportant to you, right?
Yeah.
And how did that process happen?
Well, the main thing is that in this country, 1 cat out of 10 would go up a tree.
So you're only losing 1 cat out of 10.
Yeah, and maybe not that. I mean, you may go 20 cats that don't climb. And right after Hurricane Katrina, that changed around a whole lot because we had an awful lot of blow down timber and lean and stuff, and those cats would tend to go up that stuff. So I had a lot of races that would end. But we've gotten away from the country's probably thicker than it was before or right after Katrina now, but it's thick with briars. We had those blowdowns and all that kind of rotted down, and I just very seldom ever tree a cat anymore. I mean, I'm certainly not saying they won't. If you caught one in an open place like this right here, yeah, probably he's gonna go up a tree. You don't have a choice. But if he can get to a thicket, most likely he's gonna run it out. And but like I say, the West Coast dogs, they need a different kind of dog there. They certainly need a different kind of dog in South Texas. The northern people don't need the kind of dogs that we need at all because the country's not particularly thick. I mean, I know they think it's thick, but they hadn't been down here and crawled on these briar patches. I have crawled through some of those fir thickets and whatever they call them up there.
Yeah.
It's just a different world. And even South Texas, all you ever hear is everything will stick you or bite you or whatever. And yeah, but it's not. I mean, there's 2 acres of prickly pears or 10 acres of prickly pears. It's not 5,000 acres of briars and cutover, and it's just different. And at most of that stuff down there, it really gets rough thigh high or waist high, where down here it's on the ground, and the dog can just get around better down there. I mean, there's just no doubt. I think the cats, the difference in how cats run is strictly to do with the terrain.
Well, okay. So you started, your first cat hunting was with beagles, actually.
That's right.
And so, and your country probably has changed since then, but I'm just wondering, the way a beagle pushes a cat is going to be different than the way a runner walker pushes a cat. And, I mean, does you find the cats run a lot different? I mean, you caught cats with beagles.
We caught cats with beagles, but it was in open river bottoms for the most part with a 2-acre briar patch or a reed cane thicket. And they push them out of that, and then they got wide open. When I got to branching out and finding places where there were cats, I got to finding some cutovers, some timber company land.
Okay.
We couldn't catch them with beagles in the timberland. I mean, they'd run them all day. Run them all day. It took me a while to figure that out. I don't even know that I figured it out at the time. I think maybe I did twirl the tail end, but...
Do you think in kind of an open country, beagles might work for...
Oh, yeah. I mean, a good beagle would be great. And I guarantee you it's a better race. Maybe the first time I ever went to Florida, I had a little old half beagle, half running walker bitch that I bought from, maybe she's half, I think she's running walker, from Peightal Butler, and she was just a extra large version of a beagle. And she had this screaming, this crying, this mouth I ever heard. And I loved her. But Finny, he pointed out, she's back there screaming and carrying on. And you got some dogs up here, and when they make a lose, they go back there to see what she says. Well, I got home. I listened to Finny, and I mean, if he was right, I was on board, and he's told people that I was about the only person that ever listened to it. But I knew he knew more than I did. He was good.
Yeah.
But now, he said every now and then he'd come up with something that's bullshit, and I didn't pay any attention.
So you're saying just on principle that sometimes by removing a dog from your pack, you'll catch more.
Absolutely.
So explain that a little bit.
Well, if you've got dogs that are barking out of place, the worst thing that you can have, a dog being a little bit tight-mouthed, I don't really like, but it's certainly not a fault. If he barks when he's got the cat, grabs it if he don't bark enough. If those dogs will learn, and they'll get to who's got the cat. But if you've got a dog that's just constantly breaking up races, it doesn't matter how good he is. I bought a dog, and I really liked the dog. And to show you how funny dogs are, I bought a solid red dog. Finny said he was July. I don't know. He's a little more pot looking to me. I mean, when I say that, he just wasn't a big rangy dog. He's a compact dog. I liked his looks. He had a good mouth. And first time I carried him, I didn't have much in the way of dogs, but I'd fooled around there and got him fairly broke. Well, this red dog got to trailing. I mean, he was a broke dog in South Texas, more deer than anywhere in the world. And I had hunted down there 2 or 3 nights, and he looked good. He'd tree. And he got to trailing there right after daylight, and first thing you know, he jumped. And he left the country. And I didn't have tracking collars then. And there was a man called me that night. And I'd give $1,000 for him, which was plenty, And man called me that night, and hell, he was 12, 14 miles and crossed Highway 98, a big major highway. So, I knew it was a deer, so I went and got him. Carried him the next time, same thing. He jumped something, my other dogs wouldn't run it. I didn't have a shocking collar. He got away from me. Got down Bowie River. I went home, left him. He was running up and down the river half a mile, as close as I could get to him. It's private land, just big woods. And I went home, so I come back at night. Well, about 2 hours later, a guy called me. It wasn't even dark. He had crossed Highway 49, which is a 4-lane main thoroughfare. How he didn't get killed. And he caught him running a deer across his pasture. So I caught him. Well, then, that dog, he was just changing ownership. He was stone cold broke in South Texas.
Okay.
And he was just deer crazy as you'd want one to be up here. But anyway, I shocked the dog one time. I had a shocking collar, but I didn't put it on it. Stone cold broke dog, I put it on, had it on puppies. Well, I put the shocking collar on him. I shocked him one time. He ain't never run anything else but a cat. But his fault was with that really good mouth. You be running a cat and make a lose, and that son of a gun was just as likely as not throw that track away and hit the back track. And it just killed me, but I love the dog. He's a good, best trailing dog I had, best running dog I had. But he had a fault. And there again, I told Finny came, I went down there and was hunting, and I said, this red dog, he's great, but he does this. And Finny said, I never will forget. He said, son, you don't look at the good things they do. You look at their faults. And I learned something there, and I do. I've culled many a dog. People say, well, why did you? I've sold them. Finny didn't believe in selling one, but I believe in buying one if there's one better, and I ain't bought one in a long time. But I'm not saying that if I saw a dog that I thought would fit my deal, if I had to go borrow money to buy him, I'd buy him. I just ain't seen one that I thought was better than what I had, but I'm sure there's one out there, and I'd love to try to buy him. But I never have forgot that. And I got to thinking, you know, my family, my folks raised a pretty nice set of kids, and they looked at it the same way. I remember being corrected for things that I did wrong, and there were plenty of them. But I never remember being anything said about hitting a home run or catching a touchdown pass or making straight A's. That's what you're supposed to do, you know? And so, like I say, I've equated the two, and I think that's a pretty serious something. That doesn't matter if it's raising dogs or kids or whatever. It's a good rule. You don't have to. You don't get praised for what you do.
What you expected to do.
What you expected to do. That's right. You get corrected for what you do wrong.
Well, if a guy was trying to get started in cat hunting, now out in the Northwest they got the huge trees. Their cats climb trees. They got to have a dog.
You need a tree dog. Yeah.
You need a tree locator anyway.
But you don't have to have. You don't have to. I mean, and their country's pretty thick. And it's big, but it's not thick as this down here. So you could get by with a tree-minded. I mean, with a running type of tree and walker dog. And some of these big game dogs, I'm sure, I mean, those guys are successful. And one thing that I don't believe in is breed right in the wheel. I mean, I'm constantly seeing people breed pit bull dogs to border collies and plots to greyhounds. And I just think that these dogs, you need to stay in a type of dog. I mean, if you love blue ticks, there's some good blue ticks out there. They ain't, you know, the reason that I always liked walker dogs was not that I'm colorblind, because I'm not. And I mean, I watched Desert Red Fern Groves when I was a kid too, you know, read it.
Yeah, read it.
And then watched it after it got to be a show. Yeah. But there's just, you don't have to look at the page of these guys that are winning. I mean, it's 90% walker dogs.
Right. So
the percentage is the whole thing. And that's kind of what Finney was saying, I think, when he told me, you can probably find you a July dog or two to help you catch something. But the walker dogs are consistently the better dogs. And there are some sorry tree and walker dogs, sorry running walker dogs. But the chances of you getting a dog to do what you want to do are just better in the walker breed, be it running walker or tree and walker. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that somebody ain't got a blue tick.
So,
better than
knowing what you know about what you need to catch cats, and you've hunted out west, if you had to choose a tree and walker, and that was your only choice, where would you go to get a tree and walker that could catch you some bobcats? Would you go with the Schooner River ones?
Well, if I could get, there's a few still out of Schooner River bark, and I'll catch a lot of flack for this, but I think after Bark died, they just, more than anything, lost the mouth and a little bit of the drive. I don't think there's a dog named Power Pack down there in North Florida or Georgia that's out of Bark, and I think Raccoon Valley Queen, and those dogs are more like the original. But yeah, I'd start with Schooner River house-bred dogs. I know there's the Coma-bred dogs are a little more better track dogs and more accurate than a lot, but those are old bloodlines. I'm sure there's something out there. I saw a lion hunter or a bear hunter the other day talking about his dogs went back to Woods Creek, Loose Bruce, who is, he's a lipper dog. And I can't, at this point, I could have told you one time. But anyway, so still in all, that is a predominant strain when you're looking for track dogs. That's absolutely not to say, and I hadn't actively pursued to tree and walker deal in a good while, you know. So
Where would a guy, okay, now your dogs aren't accessible to a lot of people, so where would it, if a guy wanted to get a good foxhounds for bobcat hunting, where would you send them for that?
That's a good question.
I mean, you mentioned the liquor bred dogs.
There's some awful good liquor bred dogs out there. There's still some RKS, I'm sure. There's, I mean, actually, David, I'm not qualified to say at this point in time. You know, I've been breeding these dogs and kind of picked up where Finney left off to a certain extent, and doubled up on some of my additions. But there's a lot to be. I'm absolutely not saying that there aren't some strains of dogs out there. The biggest thing is, if a man's got a set of dogs that he feels or knows somebody that has a set of dogs that'll put pressure on game and trail, that is a dying thing in the dog world, because not everybody, but a whole lot of people have to run in pens. That's what they got to work with. What do you need a training dog for? You know, you just need a dog that'll get you under for a little bit. And so they bred a lot of the trail out of them, bred the nose, I think bred a lot of the intelligence out. These dogs are just as smart as anything that anybody's got. I need to stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as